It's been said before, and I'll say it again. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So where would you rather be than right here and right now on the Ralph Rant? Let's go.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant, your source for hard-hitting Buffalo Bills takes. Now, here's your host of the Ralph Rant, that veteran watcher of generations of Bills teams, the prophet who predicted Josh Allen's greatness, that opinionated so-and-so you've walked out on parties because of, the Ralph.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant. Good evening. It's the Saturday Night Attitude Show, possibly considered to be a pregame show for tomorrow's contest at Highmark Stadium, the Ralph. We'll talk about everything. We'll even talk about the weather. Very interesting. But thank you very much for being here. This is the Ralph Rant, of course. We are past 1,000 subscribers. I have to really thank everyone who supports the channel, and we've got the same crew that shows up to a lot of these shows, and it's just been awesome. So thanks so much for that. And of course, if you are new here this evening, please feel free to take the nanosecond required to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And of course, like the video. But it's been great. We've been having a blast with this. I had hoped to have a guest with me tonight. And this is a guy who wrote probably the best novel about college football ever. And then he's had some other great experiences we could talk about too. And he knows football, but unfortunately, he is not going to be with us tonight. And I won't reveal it until I do get him on the show. He had something come up, but that's okay. We're talking about the Bills, of course, taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tomorrow. And of course, what's on everyone's mind is still the embarrassment the Bills suffered down at the Dolphins. And I've had a lot of thoughts about it going through the week. I think the overriding ones is, look, the Bills are not that bad. The problem with this team isn't lesser players getting outplayed. The problem with this team is that there is a lack of attitude. I've been stressing this now for a while, but you could just feel it. It's different on other teams. And one of my loyal viewers actually pointed out in a comment from the last video that Mike Vrabel was seen on Thursday night, if you watched that, where New England went through the Jets like, there wasn't much of a contest. But Mike Vrabel was seen to be talking to players, to groups of players, engaging with players on the sideline. It's a guy who's been on the sideline, of course, is a player and on the field. So he's probably going to get Coach of the Year. And to see that example being made in our division, I think puts a tremendous amount of pressure on Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, especially after Beane has come out and said that this is a championship roster, which he maybe had to say after he didn't do anything at the trade deadline. And of course, as we found out since, did not make a deal for Jalen Waddle, because he told us why. I mean, he told us it was because he would have lost money if it was Vegas. And even if he'd gotten him, it would have cost him too much. But this is where I lost it with him, because what's your valuation system on picks? And now listen, I'm not talking about what I think the quality of the roster is as it is. I'm just talking about the business with the trade. He says it's a championship team, but so he didn't make the trade. But the problem is that what was required, and it's probably going to be a late round first round pick, a late part of the first round pick, obviously, because the Bills are usually in the playoffs, deep into the playoffs. That pick is different than number 15, for example. The trade value of the picks as you go through the first round decreases exponentially somewhat. So he wouldn't make that deal for the 2026 first rounder, the 2026 third rounder, I believe. I actually don't know that for a fact, but that's what I've heard. But it's out there that he could have made a deal for Jalen Waddle and did not. So the Bills have got McCole Harbin, of course, which maybe is a consolation prize. He's only 27. But we're going to talk about a lot of it here. And make sure the comments window is open. We've got a few guys in the house already. We'll get to your comments very shortly. But I think what the Bills are missing, and I think this is captured by an NFL Films moment. You can probably go and find it someplace. I haven't seen it in a very long time. It's, I believe, Denver Broncos coach Marty Schottenheimer. Now, of course, Marty Schottenheimer was a linebacker for the very early Buffalo Bills in the AFL days. And, of course, his son, I believe, Brian Schottenheimer, now, of course, coaching the Cowboys. Marty is not with us anymore. But there's a film, an NFL Films cut of him on the sideline with his team, and he just looks at them all, and he's not going rah-rah or anything of this nature. He's just looking at them and saying, gentlemen, there's a gleam. And that gleam he's talking about is just an attitude and a belief. And we're not seeing it happen on the Bills sideline. Again, you've heard me say that the difference in talent throughout the league, it's not that great. You could make guys that are seemingly not worth much look really good. It's all possible in the NFL because everyone is good. It's a problem of attitude on the sideline. And this example of Vrabel speaking with people on the sideline, we never see Sean McDermott talking to groups of players on the sideline, unless it's so furtive and so infrequent that cameras just miss it. But you cannot miss it with other coaches. And this problem with the leadership, McDermott points out himself that, look, this team has a leadership council. He's almost expressed it as being a leadership council of players, a group. He never names who they are. I think maybe he limited the captains to 2 this year so that that group isn't so maybe obvious to their benefit by having 8 or 9 captains, because that's probably what the leadership team is made up of. And you can see it clearly from the locker room celebrations after wins, where the Bills share with us a quick iPhone clip of what's going on there in game balls and so forth. You could see it's always passed to Josh at the end, like he's like the king in the background, and that's great. That should be Josh. But the issue is that when the king gets down, what do? He doesn't have anybody in his ear. And the problem might be with him being Josh Allen and the notoriety and the greatness and sure Hall of Famer, maybe, who knows? Do they have someone that has the stones to walk up to him and say, hey, look, man, you're screwing up. You missed this throw. You're out of it. Just kick him in the ass. But you don't see that happening. You see shy, sort of timid-looking guys nearby him when there is anyone nearby him. And it's easy to go Google up shots of him with this deer in the headlights lost look. And that can't be the case. And if any of us were pleading for Daboll earlier in the week when he was fired from the New York Giants, well, that's why. Because Daboll was on the sideline as opposed to both of our coordinators being up in the booth. And this team lacks, from a strong coaching personality standpoint, presence on the sideline to talk to these guys. Now, you see Ryan Nielsen, you see him talking with players some, and I did a show about him, of course, in the offseason, and I think he's trying to work through with this defense. He has had a tough time because defensive linemen are changing out. The loss of Dwayne Carter, then Ed Oliver, Landon Jackson, Michael Hoyt. I mean, that's difficult to work with, but you see him working with people. And yet, for a long part of that game last Sunday, defense at first was a problem, but you got to consider great game script. If the Bills' offense is operating like anything at all, that game doesn't get away. And again, I know I'm rambling here because I'm still upset about it, but early in that game, I mean, look, you could talk about film and stats and analysis all you want. There are energies going on. People will talk about momentum as if it's just one big thing, but there are lots of energies going on in that football field. And when Miami had a penalty before its first snap, and then threw an interception, I believe, on its third snap, and you got the 4th and 1 with that offense, and then pulled them off the field, McDermott. Dude, you have to understand when these things are occurring. You've got to be able to grasp the moment and see that. And maybe that's a talent and maybe it's not. But what's so disturbing is that so many of us actually did see it. And you're like, and even your quarterback is like, let's go, let's go. And you lost that moment of energy. So rather than take, a command of the game, get some sort of power going, get sort of intimidation going over the Dolphins because of how that first series went, resulting in an interception, you don't go for the kill shot, make it 7-0, and handing them the ball back, and you've broken serve because you're getting the ball in the second half. Why is it just us that's thinking of this? Who is in the booth around the sideline? Or doesn't Terry Pagula have a buddy? Give me a call, Terry. I'm standing right next to you and tell you when to call him. So it still incenses me how that game was lost. And I've heard a lot of people out there talking about the fact that, okay, look, this looks like it's Josh Allen. I think Dan Mitchell stuck out a post, and it's reasonable. It was on X. I think, what do I not want from, or what do I do want from my $55 million a year quarterback? And he listed 4 things, all of which are reasonable. And things on film aren't happening, as you can see, but what's really going on is that there's a lack of energy. And Josh Allen, I have a guy, fume drummer, who plays in a lot of bands. He might be on here at some point tonight. You guys have seen him, and you'll know because I've played in a lot of bands, and you can get psyched out by, like, I was a guitarist. So what if I got psyched out by another guitarist? Didn't happen too often, I got to say. But if that happened, I could see where you'd feel like that. And I think he's a little psyched out by Drake May. I think that was a bad night with those uniforms. But I think that loss to the Patriots left a mark that is still there. I mean, I banged my arm on a light switch a few weeks ago. It's, it takes a while. Now, perhaps tomorrow might be somebody or a game that some of these players could do well in, because we'll go ahead and hit something with the weather here. The forecast for tomorrow in Buffalo is, it'll get up to about a high of 42 in the morning and be raining until about 1 o'clock. But then the temperatures will fall and it will turn to snow at 1 o'clock and after. The winds will be out of the west at 15 to 17 miles per hour and at 34 miles per hour with gusts. Now, just as a sidebar and an interjection here, if someone doesn't go in to the new Highmark Stadium tomorrow on that field with a wind meter to see in this kind of wind what we're going to see on the stadium, because it's not finished yet, but it's largely clad on the outside. So you should be able to get a feel now, and anything later when it's done should be better. But I would love for someone to go measure the wind down at the field level during this blow that's supposed to happen tomorrow, and we'll see the effects it has on the existing field. But that'll be the weather. But, it might be kind of an advantage, I think, for the Bills, and more in the sense of the psychological thing with the Florida team coming up to play in the snow. And, there's something to that, obviously. And just how the players from Florida will, experience cold, upper 30s. How, just the fans, they're going to be amped up. And of course, the other thing that is, never really talked about, this is a little bit of physics and Mr. Science here, but on colder days, the air is more dense, and denser air carries sound that much better. So it could get very, very loud at the Ralph, and I'm sure it will tomorrow. So it sets up for the Bills to have a decent shot, I think, of getting out on top. Now, we've heard some of the other pregame experts talk about this. Joe Marino was very emphatic about the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense that is rated very, very low against play action and very, very low against passes to running backs. This ought to be a day for Ty Johnson. And I tell you, Ray Davis also, if the Bills had some two-back sets or even get Reggie Gilliam out there on one of these patented zone runs they're doing with Gilliam leading through a specific gap, which makes it kind of a gap run, I guess. But do something like that where it's a fake and let Gilliam get loose just past the linebackers. The Tampa Bay does have a good secondary. Their corners are good. Their safeties are good. One of their corners, it's actually quite good. This is all, of course, according to Joe, if you watch his primer. But with the linebackers, they do have one linebacker who's a real downhill trigger guy, but not real good in coverage. And the Bills should have some opportunities, especially with the backs. You don't have Dalton Kincaid, but also if you're trying to come off of the run, and running in this game, you want to have a Bills game plan like we've seen with good concentration on the running, but the kind of passing game we're talking about here, especially in the absence of Kincaid, to the backs and maybe Gilliam, and of course the other two tight ends, Knox and Haas. The feeling is that outside is going to be pretty difficult. Like you couldn't count on a lot from Keon Coleman because he's got a fast corner on him. And on the defensive side, Buffalo has to deal with the scrappy Baker Mayfield, and that he's been this season. And we'll see how it goes in the snow. I'm hoping Buffalo has a fast start. They need it just for obvious reasons. But if in that kind of weather, Tampa Bay starts to get up on Buffalo and be beating them at their own game, so to speak, in the sort of wintry mix stadium as an away team from Florida, we wouldn't want to see that. But I guess probably one thing we won't see are new faces on the sideline that are helping Josh Allen through these moments. And maybe he had the emotional fortitude in the past. You never know. The guy's going to be 30 for his next birthday. Does it go through your mind? Oh, I'm losing it a little bit. Oh, there's somebody else in the division now that's talked about being MVP. I'm sure it's a little bit scary to think about. And, and he's not doing it in spite of the $55 million, as some people might say. He's doing it because of the $55 million. He's like, these guys are on the hook for me a lot. I'm on the hook for them. I hope that's Allen's attitude. But that's a question. Is this on Josh? And I'm going to get to your comments here in a moment. Just a couple other items on the game. The Bills will be wearing the home whites with the throwback, with the standing red buffalo, of course. And that's good to see, especially from the standpoint that they were, again, kind of embarrassed in those uniforms versus Atlanta down there on that Monday night game. So it's a good chance to, because those are my favorite uniforms, by the way. And so it's a good chance to redeem those. But Brady's going to be under the microscope. I mean, as well as Tampa Bay plays, it's really a case that what they're weak at and what they're good at are very clear, and what problems they have with especially injuries and the receiver situation. And Bucky Irving is just coming back. He's only played a couple of games this season. If he plays tomorrow, which I believe he should. But the things you could do to beat Tampa's defense are kind of obvious, and we'll just have to see if Brady can lean into those or not. And we'll have to see. This might speak to either his stubbornness with staying what he believes will win, or maybe it attests to how good he is to adjusting if he's really forced, or it'll show how bad he is at adjusting if really forced. But I think we're going to find out, because this is a good team and a good contest. And the Bills may have been a little bit of a letdown last week post Kansas City and going into Miami, where you're a big favorite, and that fortitude and sticking through it through diversity. But let's start jumping through the comments here. Jefferson House, go Bills, finally getting injured players back. Yeah, very important on that. Of course, Josh Palmer will play. TJ Sanders will play. AJ Epinesa will play. I don't know if they're going to elevate Morgan Fox for tomorrow, but they did, of course, activate McCole Harbin, and that wasn't just to return punts and kicks, even though they did cut Brandon Codrington today. But that, of course, he'd been a healthy scratch as a returner. So, but at any rate, I think you're going to see Harbin on the offense. I think they're going to have some go routes for him. I think they're going to have Josh uncork it. And God help us if we suddenly find out that all we've been missing is a fast receiver with confidence. We'll see, and we can hope. Steve Busick in the house, or Buick, rather. I'm thinking of Johnny Busick, the hockey player. I know who ain't getting GM of the year. That's for sure. Jimmy Keys in the house, 100% agree. I don't know what that was about, but thank you very much anyway. The Bills have no attitude or sense of urgency, even against division rivals like New England and Miami. Both games that came out flat, no fire, no attitude. This is 100% on Coach Sean McDermott. Michael Giardino, 777. You're absolutely correct. And it's not only on him for not creating it, but it's like, why is it being held down on the sideline? Why is it that there aren't other people in positions of authority? In fact, you never see another coach coming up to McDermott, and you never see anything heated between them at all. It's always this calm sort of surgical thing, and it can't be that. There's got to be some fire. There's got to be some attitude. And I think that's why some coordinators are left. I don't think he liked how strong Daboll was. Some people think Daboll is an asshole. I think sometimes you need that kind of person. I think Josh Allen needs somebody on the sideline to go up and shake him by the shoulder pads or whatever, and like, come on, son, start getting this right. And because this attitude is crazy. The whole thing with the Bills. More comments. Dennis Maximchuk in the house. My friend is a Miami fan, and he said it was their Super Bowl. Well, every game from them here on out is an elimination game, and I believe you're talking about the Dolphins, yes. The Bills, they could be edging toward that 6-6. We don't know how it's going to come. And Fume Drummer's in the house, so you know what I'm talking about. You can get it in your head as a performer about somebody else that might have better chops than you, and it's a little freaky. So, whatever. Sorry, I don't have a producer looking at comments. It's me. So if I don't see them after a few minutes, I'm getting down there. But I think that's the thing with Josh, and Josh needs somebody that's able to talk to him and talk to him from a position of authority. If everybody's afraid to say anything to him, that's trouble. You see, Keon is rumored to be a healthy scratch tomorrow. I did not see that. And the thing with Keon, and the other thing we really haven't mentioned, and this really just came to me, is the fact that with all the pressure that's been on Keon and how Keon hasn't performed well, and of course he gets the 34-yard touchdown last week against their number 6 corner for the Dolphins. Is Josh Allen feeling a certain way because the guy he pushed the team to take with its first pick in the draft, they traded, of course, out of the first and got the first pick of the second round at number 33 in that draft. And you wonder if there's something going on there where Josh is upset, or maybe Bean is a little pissed that Josh got so much say in making that pick. And then maybe because he feels that early pick was wasted 2 seasons ago, he made sure with Max Hairston, which seems good so far, except he hasn't been on the field much. But the other thing is that maybe Bean is looking at those high picks so strongly. Maybe the reason he didn't want to trade a 2026 1 to the Dolphins for Jalen Waddle is that he feels he can pick somebody and get on a rookie contract just as long as Allen stays the hell out of it with his choices, because obviously he's not scout material. Brandon Bean might be thinking that behind all of it. So it's a possibility. Let's go. I'm reading my anatomy textbook while listening. Gotta love science. Keep on that anatomy. Let's go Bills. Got a jet. Thanks for the rant, Ralph. Hey, Jimmy Keith, thanks for hanging out. Love seeing you here. Jeff, I recruited 2 buddies to subscribe to this channel this week. Ralph, play a little guitar like to a Bills shout song. Who said I played guitar? Did I say it? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can. In fact, if you guys, any of the music you hear on this show, the intro, the countdown, or when we get into the intro, this is all stuff of my recordings. I don't have to worry about the copyright stuff, which is so nice, or pay for music. Well, thanks very much, Jeff, for that. Need all the subscribers we can get. Good point about checking the wind effect in the new stadium. The current one is mostly subterranean with exposed corners, where the new one is mostly above ground and has a partial roof. Very true. The both fields are sunken, actually. The playing surface at the current stadium is 50 feet below grade. Now, the playing surface at the new stadium is actually 35 feet below grade. So it's really tall on the inside. But I think definitely the way it's enclosed, such as it is. And if you've looked at Bill Stadium Live, the YouTube channel, and of course, see the metal cladding going up, and it's all got these cutout perforations in it, row after row after row, or column, if you will. And of course, those are all the Bills, whatever they call it, the motion, the swoop, the streamer coming from the Buffalo on the current. Yeah, here it is right here. They're all shaped like this, with the exception of the horn, I believe. Every single one of them on every single panel, covering all of the exterior of the stadium. And like I said, they've got the Abbott Road side done, which and the exterior design is cool. I mean, stadium looks awesome. Keep on going with the comments here. Keon got screwed because of his high pick. If anyone watched his college film, he caught wide open passes and some jump balls. NFL requires precise and quick route running. Exactly. Excuse me. It's getting over the cold earlier this week. And if anybody should know that, Josh Allen should know that. I mean, in the film, the video I did about Josh predicting his greatness 2 weeks after the draft in 2018 shows clips from the Hawaii game where he's throwing outs to these receivers like lasers that are going through these guys' hands. This shit about him being inaccurate was horse shit. It wasn't true. You have to watch. Inaccuracy it's a completion percentage. There's so much more to that, and we know that. But look, he was throwing some accurate balls. But as far as the point here is that Allen knows this because he was not on a great team. He played other great clubs, and then in his senior year at Wyoming, he'd lost. There's several guys to the NFL, at least one offensive lineman. So it was a little tougher go in that season. He was great in the Senior Bowl, of course, but he had to play with adversity, through adversity in college. And this is the same thing that goes with a lot of players. And the point about Keon is a great one, because if he is able, based on the competition he's facing and based on the schools that he's playing, able to just get open easily and reach for balls and making it look easy, no, that does not does not translate. And it's disturbing that Josh Allen was allowed to have a big say in the pick of him when there might have been scouts that are like, no, wait a minute. But keeping that thought in mind, that it's disturbing that Josh Allen was able to influence their first pick of the draft previous to this one in 2024, then if he's got that kind of power, what does it say that they're letting him roam alone in this mental state that he's getting into during these losses? And that there's no one there to snap him out of it. And I keep on coming back to this, but unless it just needs to get in rhythm and it starts working for him again. But there's definitely a slump going on. I mean, it hopefully, I mean, you're almost glad, I guess, that the ass kicking came at the hands of the Dolphins. Not that it's a division game, but the point being that, look, the Dolphins have their problems. They had just gotten beaten badly by another team. That even the Dolphins were able to beat the Bills has to say something about the mindset and the state of mind of the Bills, whatever it may have been. Coming off the Kansas City win, maybe practices. Are they too hard? We're getting practice injuries. Maybe practices suck. Mark, the guy I was going to have on tonight, was going to say, hey, I wouldn't work these guys so much. This stuff of the game planning and so forth, it's, work it in on Thursday. I mean, you've got to let guys rest more, especially in the league, how it's set up now. Although, the Bills had to, travel amongst the least of teams this season. Ralph, good show. McDermott, better have him ready. Thanks, Sal. Good to see you here. Got a few more to get to. Of course, it's not as many of the angry ones as we see in a loss. God, I hope that's not the case tomorrow. Then we only got our two best leaders and motivators, unfortunately. Matt Collins would have gotten Josh's face, right? That's probably the other part of it, because you've got the fact that there's, like a Josh Palmer who was installed as maybe your top receiver. He doesn't have the relationship to go up and get in Josh's face. Diggs, of course, did. Perhaps to a fault at times, but boy, don't you miss it now. If we had him now doing this, Josh wouldn't be moping around looking like, oh, what just happened? He'd probably be pissed at Diggs, but that would be better than this like catatonic moping where nobody's talking to the guy in the sideline. Jason Bush in the house. Hello, everyone. Let's go Buffalo. All right, man. Hello to you, too. Thanks for being here. I heard on the local sports radio last week, Josh made audibles about a coming blitz, and the receivers didn't adjust their routes to check down. That's shitty coaching. Yes, it is. And I wasn't trying to think my way out of the statement. It was more about, how else could that be? I mean, it's so basic. And the thing is that you're facing a team that's going to blitz probably as much as Miami did last week. Josh Allen has not been good under pressure. Not been good under pressure. And I hope he's great under pressure tomorrow. They're coming. They're going to need play action. They're going to need to establish a run, start running play action, and getting him slow down. You got Vita Vea in the middle of that defense. Unusual defensive lineman. But so the questions, is this on Josh? Is it on the coaches? Is it on Brandon Beane for the player selection? Well, I think it's on all of them, obviously, because you can bring up factors that influence the team playing that way. But it goes back to the same thing I was talking about a few videos ago. Those those are not causes. Those are symptoms of what's going on. But what is causing it? And just the attitude of the team. There's so many factors that get the attitude of the team down. Losing important guys to injury. Good Lord knows that's happened. Getting beaten by teams that you should not be losing to. Having your leaders on the sideline, going quiet, not saying anything. Not having a coaching sideline presence that, or a coach that's present that has the power. I mean, how much of Vince Carter did we see all preseason going around talking with Josh, sitting down with Brandon Beane, describing greatness? You remember all those interviews off of Hard Knocks? I don't know if he was a champion or not, but, why the fuck is he not on the sideline talking with Josh? No, he can't talk football with him. Josh doesn't need football to be talked to him. Could it be Brady who's like, he's over his skis? Maybe he can't change up this offense that much. Or I don't know if he has the ability to run, different concepts out of some of the sets and formations he currently has. I don't know. I mean, there's reasons all over the place. McDermott not having an attitude on the sideline. He is the sideline leader and is just, and once in a while, I mean, he'll clap after a missed field goal or the Bills fumble and the other team recovers. Like, I don't know. I don't know what that means. It's all right. Keep up your spirits, guy. Yeah, Gruden's still looking for a gig. I don't even need to look at that. Let's get to some more comments here. Do you notice that Diggs and Holland seem like best friends on the field against the Jets? Yeah, well, I wonder why. They're probably laughing their asses off. Seriously. The crazy thing is I don't see a weakness on the Patriots team other than inexperience. Drake May is closer to crumbling than you think with the right kind of pressure. I assure you of that. So the Bills got a shot. Morgan Fox, who it's as good as time as any to talk about him, he's been added to the practice squad. Essentially a Michael Hoyt replacement. And if you go look up Michael Hoyt's stats, all of them are talking about him being 310, 311 pounds. No, he was once that. And he made a huge change to his body composition. And now is like 6'4", maybe 275, 280 maybe. He's got a pretty thick lower section to him. His legs are like trees. But 6'3", 275 for Morgan Fox, who's had success in this league, and could be a possibility because that might be a Hoyt type of situation. I think the other thing you need to probably understand too, as we're talking about what's going on with this team, you've heard me say that Ryan Nielsen came in almost like a counterpart to Aaron Cromer, who's so good with the offensive line and, of course, is like the running game coordinator also. But Ryan Nielsen is the same thing on a defensive line side, and where it's not just about having each individual player have just their world and what they're doing. Of course, they have assignments, but it's working together. And when you work together more, there can be a lot more disguise, more stunts, more games. This odd front, mirror front that the Bills have run, and different setups to basically confuse an offensive line. And we saw that to some great effect versus Kansas City. And, Michael Hoyt played a part in that. Joey Bosa wasn't wearing the Q-tip. And so, that's possibly a reason too. Maybe Josh feels like, boy, we need to see this twitchy, hostile defense actually have some success. But again, I think the last Sunday's loss to the Dolphins had more to do with Sean McDermott punting on 4th and 1 in the Bills' first series following Cole Bishop's interception than anything else, because that set the tone for the whole day. And it was wrong. And McDermott pulled the chicken switch, and I have no idea why. I wish I knew the guy, how he thought. And, I just wish he would demonstrate some fire. Throw down your headset sometime. Break one. Let us see that at least. Anyway. We're getting to some good comments here. I promise we're going to jump into them right now. The Buffalo Mayor gave Deion Dawkins keys to the city yesterday. I have no idea why. Well, Deion's a good spokesman for the city and so forth, and whatever. He's very popular. I did see that. Is John Gruden still looking for a gig? Well, yeah, he's doing podcasts just like me, explaining football concepts, doing real deep dive pregame stuff, and you could bet Gruden, Chucky on the sideline. Can you imagine? The problem is, it's like Patton once said, General Patton from World War II, and it's in the movie somewhere, Patton, George C. Scott, and he basically wants his soldiers to fear him more than they fear the enemy. And I think that's what needs to happen. And I think Sean McDermott needs to quote him, go into the locker room, the old locker room, of course, before you move into the new one, and take that folding chair and throw it through that window or into a mirror or something. Break something. Stun the team. Get some fire. Grow some stones. What are you guys doing? Football is about hostility. It's about intimidation. You punt it on 4th and 1. You castrate your team before it's even played its 4th play from scrimmage. I mean, disgusting. Ralph, I need to write. Right. Ralph, I need to rant. We Bills fans are getting screwed. They, owners, coaches, GM, do not care like us. As long as we fill the seats, and they won't change a thing. They don't care about no Super Bowl. I do not agree with that at all. Absolutely not. I think they care every bit as much about it, but they're it's a tough thing to do, and they might not be the right guys for the job. We'll have to see. I think Pegula's probably got to look at Philadelphia and, Howie Roseman, their GM, who has been there forever and failed forever, right? But there's a reason that the Bills are where they are right now, and I think it's just overall attitude. And how was that attitude produced? Well, by some of the dumb moves, incorrect methods of evaluating situations, people, and so forth. Not seeing the forest for the trees at times. Trying to get too deep and outsmart and so forth, where you outsmart yourself. But there's a gleam, like I said at the beginning of the program, and somebody's got to tell these guys that. And it's Josh that we always hear being the one that's saying that. But he's like not feeling it. And somebody's got to make him feel it. And it needs to be a coach. It needs to be a coach. Or Vince Carter. I don't care. Whoever. One of the, the Bills brought in extra ownership at smaller stakes, of course, to help, fund the costs of what Pegula is paying for that new palace across the street. I mean, it's not about football. Josh just needs. He said a couple of weeks ago, he was quoted as saying, "Well, I'm not trusting my feet. I'm not trusting my reads. there's a school of thought that's saying that he's covering for what he's not seeing in the receiving core, or what he's not seeing from the coordinators. And I mean, I guess that's the one thing we kind of can tell. The Bills just don't seem to have guys getting open, and it doesn't seem possible that so many other teams do so with ease because the players are that much better. I don't believe that. I think part of it, another piece of it is, we'd be listing these on a whiteboard if I felt like it. But the fact that Keon Coleman, as poorly as that's gone, still plays more snaps than any other wide receiver. And what would happen, indeed, if he's a healthy scratch, as was rumored earlier in the show? Do you think Davis and Hardman will make a difference? I do. And are we hearing that Gabe is actually going to play tomorrow? I wonder if that might be a thing. And the reason I think that, and definitely with Hardman, who has a reputation, he's done it. He's been on championship teams. He's not that old. He's just 27. And, he played all of his career, essentially, just about, with Patrick Mahomes. And that's like being with like a certain band and a certain lead singer. And sometimes that can get old. I mean, this might be a reawakening for him. We see Buffalo on their first play go deep to him, and Josh actually puts some air under the ball and lets a guy run under it. We'll see. But I don't think you're going to see him just returning kicks tomorrow. I think Hardman will be on the field. And Gabe Davis, if he's able to get out there, yes, I think he'll make a difference. I absolutely do. And again, it's because of the experience and the experience with Josh. And that might be something good for Josh, that is kind of a piece that brings him back to the good old days. If we can, that's amazing we can even say that, but there are good old days now. Where are we in the comments here? Let's get through some of them here. Johnny Rickshaw in the house. Do you think they'll use Hardman as a wide receiver, just a returner? No, he'll be out as playing wide out. You can bet on that, especially if that rumor about Coleman is true. Chucky. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just catching up. You guys are commenting on stuff I'd said 20 minutes ago because I'm yapping. Yeah, it's a copycat league. I give them 2 more years to figure it out. If not, then I don't know. Yeah, right. Let's say we win the next 5 games in a row. Will Bills fans still want a wide receiver in the first round? I'd go get the most durable player you could find, whatever he is. But, yeah, I do think so, though. Unless, Hardman works out and they're going to go ahead and extend him. I mean, they can write him for whatever he wants. They came in on the practice squad, not as a trade. There's no contract to honor from another team. In fact, that was JPS in the house. Dennis, again, I have a question. Does an offensive coach's salary go against the cap? No. That is just players. And the actual formula for the cap is it's based on it's not all 53. It's based on a couple less players than that or something. I forget exactly what it is. But no, a salary cap is just players and just players on the 53-man active roster. Lloyd Marshall here. Dennis, Bills and Sabres fans need to stop being simps and tell Terry Pagula either give us a championship winners or sell these damn teams. Time for being an apologist is over. Well, I would think, we're going to have to see. This season's going to tell an awful lot, I believe, because I think there's a lot of pressure on McDermott and Bean, especially with this idea of Josh Allen is flowing through the hourglass. Not that there's not a lot of time left, but son of a bitch, don't you think we could have won? Their best chance, obviously, was stymied by 13 seconds. And it's kind of a capital offense. Thank you, Lloyd. Gabe Davis will either have a stat line of 7 receptions for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns or triple zeros. Well, I could see that. We fans have the power. We do. Yes, we do, bro. All right. Harbin and Davis have been elevated for Sunday. Davis is, Harbin, it's not been elevated. Harbin was signed to the 53-man active roster. Now, Gabe Davis had been signed to the practice squad after coming off injured reserve, and he could be elevated, and we'll see. They may well be signing him to the active, but Harbin has been signed to the 53-man active roster. That's not an elevation. Van Drummer, how can a scout determine a college player's durability? Well, Landon Jackson is hurt after playing, less than 30 plays with the Bills and came into the Bills having 2 ACL tears on the left side. Now, this was to the right knee, but, that's one way. Jason Bush, got on what the answer was. I'm glad you love the content. We're always having fun here. The Bills and Sabres would both be gone if it weren't for Pegula and his Pennsylvania fracking money. Remember that. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Sam Sinclair in the house. I hope the team gets their mental game in order. Thank you. This feels like the biggest hurdle of the season. Excuse me, getting over that allergies, man. Allen was MVP last year because of what he had to play with. Best O-line, and this year, I was thinking exactly that before the show. I mean, last year, it was the everyone eats situation. I mean, you had Mac Hollins. That made a difference on the receiving side. I mean, hell, wasn't he their their best receiver in the playoff game? I mean, you let him go because they were going to pay him $5 million. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of this might be tied to the value system that Brandon Beane attaches to draft picks. And I think he values them more highly than he should. And for 2 reasons. Number one, the Bills always are picking later in that first round. So that pick is exponentially not as good as something that's in the 10, 15, even 15 to 20 range. Right? But the other thing is that he has not demonstrated a great track record on number 1 picks. I mean, Kaiir Elam was a big miss. He should still be, they should have had the corner situation solved. So, but good point, exactly. So if the salary is not capped, let's go out and get Chucky, someone with actual championship credentials. Well, the salary is capped, but it has nothing to do with coaches. And yes, I would be talking to him because this team needs a fire lit under it. And if you could imagine him working with Josh Allen, John Gruden is extremely intelligent. If you didn't know, I mean, the guy is like extremely, extremely intelligent. That's what I'll say about that. Tim D, get your shit together. We need a Lions versus Bills Super Bowl. Yeah, there you go. The Battle of Lake Erie. The Battle of Lake Erie. And both squads have had their some similar troubles in a way this season. That was Tim D. Fume Drummer. Thurman Thomas was a 2nd-round pick because of a college injury. That worked out for the Bills. Well, yeah, certainly. And, they also drafted McGahee in the very first round. First round or 2nd round when he came in with an injury, and Willis McGahee never really amounted to that much. So it's a crapshoot. Fume Drummer, I don't give up about those if not for Pegula claptrap lines anymore. The question is, what have you done for us lately? Let's say we lose the next 5 games. Will Pegula hire a new head coach? It won't happen in season. He won't do that. But if he's thinking about it at all, if the thought crosses his mind, if he's speculating that what if that you just speculated, I would think he'd have to have somebody in mind. And I don't think it necessarily has to be someone who's currently coaching. And who is currently coaching that you'd, want for the head position? That's a question there. So, somebody like a Gruden, to have Parcells of proper age, of course. Old Bill's too old to do it now, but even Parcells. What would a present day clone of Vince Lombardi do with this team? Man, how far down did I go in the comments? Oh, I missed it. Now I've got to find it again. Oh, we're farther down than that. We're farther down than that. This might be. No, we already saw that one. Sorry, guys. My goodness, I'm just behind the game here. I think here we go. Yes, thank you. Matt Collins was the mental passion we needed on this team and his dynamic abilities. Man, what a shame. And, there's no leaders out there. And if everybody defers to Josh, he's a freaking basket case on the sideline right now. Let's be truthful. Let's identify with truth and honesty and love and joy in our heart what we could actually really see. And one thing we know is that Josh Allen just looks like shit on the sideline in these losses. And even in the wins, he's going and sitting by himself. He's got a couple of guys always talking to him, perhaps the quarterback's coach, who else, whoever it may be, but no one that's got the mental power and temerity to be able to look him in the eye and ask, Josh, what the hell was that? You want to wake up out here, son? Because I had a quarterback down the bench there, number 11, who's ready to go out and throw the dickens out of it. He was a first-round pick, and he hasn't had a chance. That's what I would be fucking telling him. Come on, guys. Let's get intense. Let's get pissed. That's what's missing. I understand your frustration. That was Lloyd Marshall. Speaking back to Fume Drummer. Hey, I'm always going to love my Bills and can't help it, but I need to blame the bad luck on something. Will we ever recover from reaching 4 Super Bowls in a row and losing? Let's go, Bills Mafia. Well, if you want to talk about that in terms of it being some sort of a curse or whatever, a lot of people said that the Jim Kelly curse was established because after Jim Kelly lost 4 Super Bowls, there was never a quarterback after that until Jalen Hurts and his win of this past Super Bowl. There was never a quarterback in the NFL who had gone to and lost his first Super Bowl that even ever got back to the game again. That's the first Super Bowl. Now, of course, Mahomes lost maybe a second one and was back for a third and a fourth. But this was all studied and verified. No quarterback that lost their first Super Bowl attempt ever got back to the game again after Jim Kelly. And I went through the list, you could believe me, and the first one to do it was Jalen Hurts. And perhaps that is somehow broken now. And the other thing I've said repeatedly is, look, I think the Bills are going to have to go through a level of hell to actually get to that trophy that sometimes I wonder if that doesn't include being the number 1 seed, or if it doesn't even include a home playoff game. Like the 2008 Giants, who had to go on the road for the entire playoffs. They played at a freezing Green Bay and won. And of course, it was that Giants team that stopped the Patriots from having the perfect season in the new era to beat out the Dolphins, who did it in the old era, meaning 14-game to 16-game regular seasons. John Gruden and a complimentary staff would be an improvement. There you go. B, I, like you, thought we had an undefeated team this year. Just shows how hard it is to do that. But if losses are to happen, it's best that they happen now in order to be able to make that run, that late run again. And, this is a big point because it's almost back to the Secretariat thing I talk about, where you consider the Secretariat never liked to get in front, except for his very last big race, the Belmont Stakes, where he just sprinted out in front and just ran away from the other horse. But other than that, he always liked to come from behind. I always enjoyed coming from behind to the underdog. Can't wait. Mama's got meatballs made downstairs. Oh, Sicilian wife. Guys, highly recommended. Highly. But yeah, maybe it's a thing for the Bills to have to go through absolute hell, road the whole way, nail biting, just tears in your eyes, freaking game endings that they pull out. Maybe it has to be that way. Maybe that's required to get past those 4 Super Bowls. And, I'm not putting that statement down at all, because I think, they talk about these trends that extend over years in the NFL, that, this always happens. It doesn't matter if Terry Bradshaw or Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback of the Steelers. This always seems to happen. And they're not just coincidences. Again, there are energies involved. Energies on a large scale, different vibrations everywhere. Energies on a smaller scale during the game. Like when McDermott didn't take advantage of the energetic peak on that 4th and 1. Didn't take the step. He pulled the chicken switch. That lost the game for the Bills. And in the same sense, losing 4 Super Bowls in a row might have some decades long, it does seem to have some decades long effect on the Bills. And for them to actually get there, they might actually really have to go really through hell to do it. Hey, Ralph, my brother actually believes the NFL is rigged. Yeah, and the Apollo landings never happened. It was completely faked. And, we didn't go to the moon. No, I mean, you wouldn't be able to keep a secret like that. And if you're trying to talk about it from the ref standpoint, the stuff washes out. Sometimes it might look like it, but in terms of being, rigged, I mean, let's go back to the very first game of the season, and the Bills are driving down to try to get a score against the Baltimore Ravens. And Josh Allen throws a pass that ends up being tipped by one guy, and Keon Coleman is right there to catch it. I mean, are you saying we're planning those sorts of plays to make sure points are scored? No, it's not rigged. Someone also said they were talking about the goalpost. Look at that kick, and it goes over like that. They're pushing it that way. Guys, play any golf? I used to try. I suck. But, I hit the best and longest slice you've ever seen with the driver that starts out straight and goes that way. It's spin on the ball. I'm watching a college game tonight where there's a high snap. Guy gets the ball set down, but the tip of the ball is pulled towards the holder too much, so the ball is not at a vertical axis. And of course, when you've got a kicker kicking it that direction, more of the ball is on this side. Of course, it's going to make it go that way. No, it's about balance. No, the NFL is not rigged, and I don't think, because if it was to any real extent, it would be visible, and I don't think the players who put their minds and bodies on the line would ever do that for that. They're not just doing it for money. So no. And they did in fact, land on the moon. It really happened. And for people that don't believe that we landed on the moon, I'm just going to go here for a minute. It's Saturday night. It's the Attitude Show. Why not? Okay. People say we didn't land on the moon. It was all faked. I've heard this. There's a musician I know that believes it. Now, the moon has 1/6 the gravity that the Earth does. So things are much lighter. And there's no atmosphere. So there's no like air pressure in or out. So nothing is there to like wind to blow things in or bend things or whatever. The landing on the moon part and the Apollo missions, dudes, that was the easy part. Oh, very light gravity. We got an engine. That was the easy part. You know what the hard part was? The hard part was getting 6 million pounds of gear off a launch pad with 7.5 million pounds of thrust and getting it to go into the sky and into orbit with nothing breaking or exploding, where it's the most volatile mixture of propellant and accelerant imaginable. And they pulled that off. And, you know, it really happened because there were about 1 million people on the beach watching all of those Apollo launches. So, see, that was the hard part. The landing on the moon is just navigation and getting there. That's just physics, Isaac Newton. So, sorry, didn't mean to get off on that tangent, but it is Saturday night. The Bills are 32nd in the league when it comes to starting every offensive series with a running play. They have never passed on first down. And, you know, Brady's over his skis, man. He really is. And I think it's pissing Josh off. And I don't know why they don't let Josh call his own plays. I know it's not done much in the league. I think it would be warranted here. Jim Kelly called his own plays, you know, and the Bills, you know, had Ted Marchibroda as the offensive coordinator in those days, but Jim Kelly called his own plays. Disgusting. Largemouth Hunter in the house. 20-year drought, and we've been winning, and people still complain. Well, it went from a playoff drought, now it's a Super Bowl drought, is sort of, I guess. Because missing out on either gets slow. I don't know if people are complaining so much is that there's the feeling that there is this quantity that is Josh Allen that is not being taken advantage of. And it's just unfortunate, but anyway, still with your comments here. Dennis Maximchuk, yeah, you guys noticed Josh was tired after a drive last week. I don't even remember Josh being tired. Was it hot out there? Well, you know, it was supposed to be 89, but, you know, they had rain showers that came up and got heavy at the through the end of the first half. And then at halftime, it quit. And so it probably got very humid, actually, with all that water on the ground from the rain showers that's coming up, and things will get really humid then. So I don't know if it was hot, but I'm sure it was kind of uncomfortable. Vito B, look at Passion, John Madden, Jimmy Jones, Vince Lombardi, Parcells, all had won Super Bowls. I hear you ran about the subject. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, so is Josh not the answer? No, Josh is absolutely the answer. You know, he just, you know, with Josh, he just needs a coach on the sideline to talk to him. That's all he needs. You know, and listen, I don't care if you're stepping on Brady's toes. I mean, I'm sorry. He was, you know, maybe he wasn't considering it, but he's getting looked at for head coaching jobs. I'm not so sure at this point. But look, you're trying to win with this team. And you've got a problem with your sideline leader, who is Josh Allen, who happens to be a player, not a coach, you know, looking like just catatonic at times. And that can't be. And if McDermott's not going to do it, who is? And if I was Pagula, I'd have said, no, go hire Daboll. Bring him in to talk to Josh Allen. I don't care. I'll pay him $1 million a day for a few days. If that could turn things around, whatever could turn things around, because the Bills are lacking leadership of a guy that looks like he's tough and got some balls. And McDermott, he's just like this even keel thing, like he described. He needs to be. That's how he described himself in Hard Knocks. We shouldn't be surprised. Lloyd Marshall, the only one I could think of as a martyr today, Parcells or Lombardi, would be Sean Payton, who coaches the Broncos. He'd take no prisoners. Very true. And of course, Vrabel's, he's all over that stuff. Even Trubisky isn't sitting next to Josh Allen on the bench. Very, very astute and observant point. Donald Ohino is in the house. Joe Brady needs to be in the sideline, getting in the guys' faces and motivating everyone. Amen, brother. Amen. Absolutely. Sam Sinclair, Fume, great point. It does not feel like a cohesive unit this year. And, you've got the new faces, and really Khalil Shakir is like the constant in it, but Khalil Shakir is not, and has never been anything like a lightning rod like Diggs was. In terms of, he's a quiet guy. He does this playing do the talking. He's not that guy, but you need a guy. Matt Collins. Josh is making so much cash. All is sort of saying, hey, Allen, show us you deserve it. You don't need coaching. You got it. Well, he's got the talent, but somebody needs to light the fire under that talent and get him pissed enough to react. He's, is he back to this low positive shit? Hope nobody's talking him into that. Josh Allen broke the curse with Peyton Manning. I just watched it on YouTube last night. I don't know what that actually was. So I'll have to get back to that and look at it. JPS, I saw that and I thought the same as you. So I guess I didn't get that one. So did I. It was Asker was a brilliant with a cigar. The Jets have 5 first-round picks in 2026 and 27 combined. Would you trade Josh Allen for all of them? No. Sipping on the vodka here, guys. Well, look, I'm actually out of a little bit of Cabernet here in the Godfather glass, as we call it. But we're getting long in the tooth here anyway, and we need to be ready to watch this game tomorrow. Largemouth Hunter. D just needs to be able to tackle receivers to catch passes if we make the playoffs. Well, and guys have to be, getting open. If indeed, George Pierce Sr. Guys, I'm seeing some new faces, and indeed, if you are new, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. We're going to bust through all the comments here. Donald Ohio, Dable, who used to be the Giants coach, would have let Allen have it if he slipped up while he coached the Bills offense. He would, and he'd have gotten in his face and pissed. And what I said earlier about Josh making all that money, he could have had that on his mind too. Here I am making all this money, I'm not getting the job done. I think it's a lot of things. You have to admit the Dolphins were way overdue in beating the Bills. Yeah, they had a real good team when Hill was in there, and they always found a way to lose. Division games are always tough, though. That is very true. Refs can rig with bias calls game to game. Yeah, but I think that, and it's going to be on and pass interference calls, holding calls, those sorts of things. And I think, though, you'll see if something like that goes awry, I think you'll see a move to say, okay, we're getting faster with the cameras. which the NFL is. So let's start looking at more things. Was that really offensive holding? Was that really tripping? Who really started that fight? We could even look at that. I mean, they tried it with the interference business, and they even had it set up where coaches could, challenge interference calls. But the issue is that you have to have a system with a panel of guys watching this stuff, each watching a different aspect, all being able to agree on something very quickly. And they seem to be doing that a lot with the spotting the ball. Now we're seeing right down the line of scrimmage. We didn't see that when Josh Allen was trying for that first down and the fourth down plunge at the end of the AFC Championship game. The moon landing is fake and wrestling is real. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was great. The first miracle of the Apollo motions was clearing the launch tower. Yes. Yeah, but if sound waves can't move in a vacuum, hey, it's Saturday night. Yeah, well, sound waves can't move in a vacuum. They did have that fire versus the Chiefs. Yeah, and again, this was where you'd lost Ed, but you had Michael Hoyt coming on, and then, then you lose Michael Hoyt. And I think after a while, it's injuries. It's got to be like, Jesus, what do we have to do? So, true enough. Look at Dan Pass to more Sunday, and I'm slamming my TV. Yeah, all right, I got you on that. He's talking about Elijah, I believe. And if he wants to flick one, flick it out to Jackson Haas. That's his favorite way to catch. Love how the goalpost has moved to Super Bowls. I love my Bills because they were the local team on my network and TV channel. Let's go Buffalo and just leave it all out on the field. Well, and that's very true. We're true Bills fans. We're dyed in the wool, lifelong. I mean, somebody asks, why aren't you just like another team? Like, what? No. And if I want to say things bad about them, I can. But God help the Patriots fan or the Chiefs fan who's throwing shade on us. Then we got to defend. But we've earned our fandom. If you're like me, you've earned it. And yeah, the goalpost has got to move to Super Bowls. It has. Allen is the answer. The issue B needs to look at is what is the problem, and they're kind of predictable on offense. I mean, we heard earlier about the first down run percentage being the absolute highest in the league. The Bills are 32nd on pass percentage on first down. We'll put it that way. Want to be pissed? Watch a Joe Brady presser. Yeah, true enough. Josh Cannon should be audibling. Vito B. Absolutely. And of course, if he was, hope he's better at that than he is at selecting wide receivers out of Power 5 schools that have no problem getting open in college and realizing that, never mind. Is Tom Brady doing color commentary for the Bills game? No, I do not believe that is the case. It's Ian Engel and who the hell is it? It's not Brady, though. And thank goodness it's not Charles Davis. Charles Davis with that Madden voice, just something about it. I mean, he's just too. It's Madden. Hard Knocks in Buffalo was more like soft taps. Well, yeah, of course, they weren't allowing good teams in there. Bills curse. Hit the like button. Jason Bush. Thank you very much. Yes, please do hit the like button. I'm going to look at a couple more here, and we're going to get out of here because there's some great college football on. Paul Chandler, I honestly don't trust this team. I think we lose. We might get embarrassed in this game, too. This is a good club coming in, right? It is. And the Bills are going to have sort of a weather advantage, but if they can't run on these guys and it's sloppy out there, we'll just have to see. Sanjay Christopher in the house. We need someone with balls in the locker room. We need rage when things are not going well. Yes. Big game tomorrow. Billy the Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. All you guys, you're new Billy the Buffalo, Sanjay Christopher. If you guys are not subscribed, please do so. Definitely helps the channel. We busted past 1,000 here last week. Oh, and that reminds me, I once again will have Taylor Salty at my side for the post-game show tomorrow. That was a good one last week. Donald Ohino, something that's been bothering me is us not having a real experienced defensive coordinator. Andy Reid doesn't have to take over for Spags. McDermott is distracted, and it's showing. Well, that's because he's our defensive coordinator, and and the reason he could do that so effectively is because as a head coach, he wasn't spending time talking to the offense while they were off the field, which is precisely when now he's got his focus on the field because he's the defensive coordinator. So no one of power is in the face of the offense. And I don't think, they're having like a conference call with everybody on with headphones and Joe Brady up in the booth singing Kumbaya. Yeah. We're keeping it going here, guys. Actually, I don't know if Allen is capable of calling plays. Sometimes he's a bonehead in his reads. Very, very, very good point. Ralph, how pissed would you be if they wore the whiteout uniforms in the Super Bowl? Well, are you talking about those rivalry things? Highly. The uniforms tomorrow, those are the best. That standing Buffalo is great. Thanks, Ralph. See you after the game. Absolutely. Dennis is out of here. Mayfield will have a chip. He wants more praise. Allen gets all. He's from the same draft and number one. That's huge factor. You don't get a lot of meetings between these. That draft class is, an interesting one, as we get farther away from it in history. So certainly that's a big contest. Ralph, let's start a drive to hire Coach John Gruden from the mighty Ralph Rangers. Meeting signs, call the WGR 55, put our pressure on McDermott to produce now or get out of our new stadium. Yeah, I'm all for that. And I certainly, if this were to tank, which I don't think it will, but if it were to tank and you're like talking, 7-10 or something like that. Now, I don't think that could happen. But I don't want this McDermott act being dragged into that stadium and defiling those sidelines with this, freaking contemplative quietude on the sideline. Even hurt to say it. Hopefully we'll have a win so we can see the salty smile for once. Yeah, this is why he needs the glasses. And what the hell was he doing before then? Got to give credit to New England. Mike is a great coach. First year, he wins the division, and just more proof that the rebuild about to come. And Beanface McDumbass have to go. Thanks. There's the Ralph smile. That's good. Ralph Ranters. Darn word correction. Yeah, Ralph Ranters. Yeah. Love the podcast. Let's go. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. That is going to do it for tonight, for the Saturday Night Attitude Show. We've actually been at it for almost 90 minutes. I am shocked. I don't know how we ever get here so quickly, but all your comments are the best. Again, if you're new in the house, go ahead and subscribe. Let's see those numbers come up, and we'll keep on delivering the same content. Post-game tomorrow, probably 4:30, 4:40. We'll schedule, depending on what happens. We started earlier last week because it was just unwatchable. So, but it will be me and Taylor Salty giving you the post-game show. She's in the house, literally, and so we'll be doing that tomorrow. Subscribed, only 3 likes. Hit the like button. Thank you, Sanjay. Appreciate that. Ralph, this shit is about to crash and burn. We'll see. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for being in the house. Jason Bush, enjoy your meatballs. Oh, I certainly shall. That's what did the guy say in Caddyshack? I forget the guy's name. He was the bartender and the smart ass guy that was also the golfer. And when the girl comes out to the pool, he's like, "Go, Madonna with meatballs. Anyway, let's see a win tomorrow. Thanks for being with me on the show tonight. I want to thank you very much, as always, for being here. So with that, I'll say, be good, do good, God bless, and go Bills. I am the Ralph, and this is the Ralph Rant. Out.